everyone's missing. The left is successful because they've been able to slow down his agenda dramatically. That's a win for them because they're not thinking about you and what you voted for this election, the economy, creating jobs, fixing health care, foreign policy. No, they want to create chaos because they think that brings them back to power. That's what's at stake here. Here with reaction from the American Center for Law and Justice, Jay Sekulow, the co-host of The Five, Juan Williams. Guys, good to see you both.
Hello.
Jay, this is very, very important. James Comey, if in fact he thought the president was obstructing justice and didn't report it, do those two felonies I put up, do they play out for him? Would he have violated the law?
Sure. He had an affirmative obligation at that point to go to the officials within the Department of Justice and report that a crime had been committed, or at least an attempt at a crime had been committed, and he didn't do that. But I also would add one other thing. James Comey's not exactly a credible witness. This is a guy that's had to correct his testimony to Congress on multiple occasions. The most recent time was just a few days before he was fired. And you also had, you played the statement by Rod Rosenstein about regarding the, there was all that rumors about him, threatening to quit. And he was also asked to, I think yesterday, he was asked if he stood by his recommendation that James Comey be fired. He said yes. The handling of the Hillary Clinton email scandal was the basis upon which James Comey should be fired. There you have it. Yeah, no scandal. Well, that's the law.
And he also laid out felony after felony that Hillary committed. All right. Yeah. And that goes to the email server scandal. They didn't investigate the foundation. And we know that releasing intelligence like they did on Michael Flynn, we know that violates the Espionage Act. Juan, right. I guess my question for you is when a story comes out and it turns out not to be true, like in this particular case, how does the media get away with that? And they just keep making, as the Washington Post says, 3 mistakes in a week.
Wow. Well, first of all, I guess you think they made a mistake. I'm not sure they think they made a mistake. But let's just look back at your monologue, Sean. I was really impressed. I mean, you blame the Weekly Standard, you blame the National Review, you blamed establishment Republicans. You really think everybody's against Donald Trump. I'm surprised you didn't mention Obama.
Well, they've been against. Well, Obama hates him too. I mean, he's a threat to the swamp.
What?
But those 5 components. What I'm arguing is the swamp, and he threatens. He's an existential threat to all of those groups, and the Republicans, weak Republicans, and never Trumpers hated him from day one.
Well, I think there are people who don't like Donald Trump. I don't think there's any question. I thought you were on target when you said there are Democrats who still haven't gotten over the election. I agree with you on that. But drain the swamp, Goldman Sachs all over the place? I don't think so. I don't think that, in fact, the people that you point out elected Donald Trump think that he has gone in, replaced and repealed Obamacare effectively, done something to spur job growth in our country. I just don't see it, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you got right now a media filibuster going on. That's what they're doing. They're utilizing the media to stop any agenda moving forward. But, I had the opportunity to visit with the president yesterday. And I will tell you that despite what you're hearing, there's a lot of work being done. Let's not forget Neil Gorsuch confirmed. Let's not forget that the repeal of Obamacare has gone through the House of Representatives. Let's not forget that yesterday, Syrian forces were
regulations
successfully.
All of this.
Right. Regulations rolled back. Also, by the way, on abortion funding, which for a lot of people, including me, that are pro-life, is a big deal on international funding. That executive order was issued, signed.
Let me ask you both something.
And, I mean, so there's been success, but it's a media filibuster.
Let me ask you both. All of this, and both Clapper and Admiral Rogers have both said that there's no evidence as it relates to Russian collusion. All of the narrative, the hysteria in the media seems to surround this. So I want to ask you this question. And I am not backing off asking questions, even though there is an effort that nobody talk about Seth Rich. Now, I've interviewed Julian Assange on radio and TV many times. And I've asked him about where those WikiLeaks DNC emails came from that resulted in Debbie Wasserman Schultz firing. This kid got shot in the back. They said it was a robbery, yet he had his watch, his wallet, and his phone. I don't believe it's a robbery. But I asked Julian, was it the Russians? And then listen to what Julian said in a Dutch interview. Did Russia give you this information or anybody associated with Russia?
Our source is not a state party. So the answer for our interactions is no.
Our whistleblowers go to significant efforts to get us material and often very significant risks. There's a 27-year-old works for the DNC who was shot in the back, murdered just 2 weeks ago for unknown reasons as he was walking down the street in Washington. So
that was just a robbery, I believe, wasn't it?
no, there's no finding. So
what are you suggesting? What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that our sources take risks, and they become concerned to see things occurring like that.
But was he one of your sources then? I mean,
we don't comment on who our sources are.
By the way, my thoughts and prayers go out to this family. Jay Sekulow, and then I want Juan to really fully respond. If he says it's not Russia, and he comes so close to the line saying it was this kid. Let's put the kid out of it for a minute. I feel sorry for his family. But what if it was somebody that was so disgruntled in the DNC at how they cheated Bernie and how the fix was in? If that turned out to be true, that somebody did that, wouldn't that completely wipe out the entire Russia lie we've heard for months and months?
Of course, and by the way, not only would it wipe that out, but Dianne Feinstein, the senator from California, when asked about evidence involving Russia collusion, she said she has seen to date none. So we've got Clapper, Feinstein, Sally Yates, the entire, no one has, this is a fake story. And the fact is, I understand why the media likes to deal with this, but the reality is that the leaks information, wherever the source was for WikiLeaks, wherever that source was, or whether that person's alive or not, the fact is it was the emails themselves that caused Hillary Clinton the problem, not the fact that they were leaked. I don't like leaks. No one likes leaks.
That's such a good point.
What was in it was the problem. Yep.
But
that was the problem.
Juan, when you listen to Julian deny Russia, talk about one individual, but let's put aside the individual, knowing that Bernie was cheated and they stole it from him, and they colluded. Does that not raise eyebrows that this whole thing could be a lie to you?
Well, what did Kevin McCarthy, the majority whip, say earlier? He said he thinks Putin's paying Trump. Now, that was before WikiLeaks. That was before anybody knew anything about that.
Do you believe that?
So
do you believe
that Vladimir Putin believe that Kevin McCarthy said it? Yes. In fact, apparently there's a tape of that.
Do you believe, Juan, you're a smart guy, do you believe that Vladimir Putin paid Donald Trump, the President of the United States?
I don't know. Remember, he won't release his tax returns. We don't know exactly what was being funded by oligarchs and other people. We don't know. So I don't want to believe that, and I don't have any evidence of it. So
let me ask a question. Last question. Exit question.
But I'm just telling you, when you ask me about is this evidence that Russia had nothing to do with it, I would say to you, come on, guys. They're cutouts, and we don't know what cutouts were used to feed that information to Assange. And why would you trust Assange when I've heard Sean Hannity and Jay Sekulow say this guy's a traitor to the United States?
I got to roll. Good to see you guys. Up next on this busy breaking Friday news night, President Trump traveling to Saudi Arabia for his first overseas trip as commander-in-chief. Will he go on an apology tour? He's slated to give a speech about radical Islam on Sunday. I doubt it. Up next, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, and also tonight.
The Vice President of the United States is either a sucker and a dupe for Donald Trump, is being set up that way to go out and lie again, or he's a liar.
To destroy Trump, media continues with their biased, abusively biased reporting. We get reaction. Joe Concha, Byron York. Plus, disgrace. Former Congressman Anthony Weiner facing years behind bars after pleading guilty to sexting with a teen. And we'll check in with that on this busy news night. Straight ahead. Back to Hannity, and tonight President Trump is traveling to Saudi Arabia in the first stop on his first foreign trip now as president. This morning before he left, President Trump tweeted, quote, "Getting ready for my big foreign trip will be strongly protecting America's interest. That's what I like to do." Now, while in Saudi Arabia, the president expected to give a major speech on the need to confront radical Islam. Joining us now, the deputy assistant to the president, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. I keep talking about the cycle, the breathless reporting, all the phony stories, New York Times, Washington Post, I mentioned them in the last segment. And here's the president. He had a great relationship, connection with the Chinese president that is bearing fruit, vis-a-vis troops on the border with North Korea. Beef industry is being helped out. Really good connection. He met with the Saudi prince, the Israeli prime minister, king of Jordan, and the President al-Sisi of Egypt. He's making a lot of progress. He's taking on terror as we know, in Syria and elsewhere. But all people want to talk about, he gave secrets away because somebody outside the White House that wasn't in the room said so. Is it hard for the president to govern with all this garbage that's going on?
Not at all, Sean, not at all. We know this for what it is. I think you used the word yourself earlier this week. It's not news, it's not reporting, it's just propaganda. And we have a mission that we had approved by the American people, and we're executing it. Look, if you had any idea, and I'm sure you do because you know these people, the feelings in the Middle East, in these countries that the president is going to visit, finally, there's American leadership. Finally, we're going to treat our friends like friends after 8 years of our allies and partners being shunned. And we're going to be victorious against groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda. So, yeah, there's what the media says, and then there's reality. And we live in the world of reality, Sean, the president and his team.
You know, Dr. Gorka, you wrote a book about that we can defeat radical Islam. Is there this new emerging alliance, Israel, the Saudis, the Jordanians, and maybe the Emirates emerging that could be a force that could take on Iranian hegemony, radical Islam, and ISIS all at the same time and actually win?
Absolutely. Look at part of the trip is going to include the closing of a $110 billion deal for Saudi Arabia that will help push back on Iranian influence, that will help secure the region. We can't talk about it here openly, but the relationship between Israel and key Arab Muslim nations of the region has changed dramatically in the last 16 weeks. Why? Because now they know with American help, with American leadership, we can secure that region and we can eradicate. Remember what the president said, we are going to obliterate and eradicate these groups. And finally, we have a commander-in-chief who will make that possible.
You know, one of the things that I think I'm most concerned about is I didn't like Rex Tillerson's comments about he seemed to be sort of using as a negotiating chip the idea of moving the capital to Jerusalem. I'm not sure if I agree with that. The second thing is it possible to have any peace with the Palestinians, for the Israelis, if they continue to pay terrorists and their families large sums of money, hundreds of millions of dollars, after they kill innocent men, women, and children, Israelis and Americans? I don't see how it's possible.
Look, so first things first, there's no final decision on the capital, but you heard it from the vice president's mouth on the day of national independence for Israel. The president is very, very seriously looking at this issue, but there's the broader question of the larger deal, and this is related to it. To your second point, yeah, there has to be a fundamental change. There has to be a behavior modification if we're going to have peace in a deal brokered by this administration. It's not going to be another piece of paper. It's not going to be a nice summit somewhere. If this happens, it's going to happen for real because we have the world's best deal maker, but it has to happen only after certain things change with regards to exactly those issues you discussed with regards to terrorism, payment of terrorist families, and other key issues.
One thing I know is not going to be happening, Dr. Gorka, this is not going to be an apology tour. That will be refreshing. Good to see you. And coming up on this busy, breaking Friday news night here on Hannity.
There have been a couple who have been perhaps treated more unfairly or as unfairly. Let's talk about, I don't know, Barack Obama.
All right, The View's Whoopi Goldberg says that President Obama was treated, well, just as unfairly or even more so than President Trump. We have a new study just released. It proves that's not true. We'll get reaction from Joe Concha and Byron York, and also on this busy Friday news night.
When you saw him absolutely calling Hillary crooked, the lock her up, all of that was developed. I think that was developed strategically with people from the Kremlin.
Vladimir Putin did it. Of course, the Democrats won't stop pushing the bizarre tinfoil hat conspiracy theories. Lisa Booth, Rick Cornell weigh in. Also, disgraced former Democratic Congressman Anthony Weiner pleading guilty to sexting with a teenager. He could spend years behind bars. Straight ahead. Welcome back to Hannity tonight. Time for our fake news roundup. Over the past 24 hours, the mainstream media's coverage has been downright vicious. You can't make this stuff up.